welcome to Everything House Music and more. And today's special guest, we have the one and only Mr. Craig Loftus. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I appreciate you doing this, man, and it's an honor to have you today.
It's an honor to be here.
So we're going to get into it. You ready, Craig?
I'm ready.
Okay, so first, how were you introduced to the culture that became the culture of house music, and what year was that?
Oh, my gosh. I would say my introduction was twofold.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I was introduced, I don't even know how I got introduced to the scene. It's been a minute.
Right.
But I remember we started a group. Oh, you know what? Let's take it on back. I think I got it.
Okay, go ahead.
One of the premier places that also helped kick this off was Mendel.
Oh, okay.
And I was a big fan of Mendel.
Right.
I was there every party that they gave.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things at Mendel Catholic that they used to do that was real big was the dance groups.
Right.
And in high school, I was a really good dancer. So I was in a lot of different dance groups.
Okay.
So I met a couple of people, and it kind of like broke off from there. We started doing parties and things. I met Eric Bradshaw.
Okay.
And he wanted to start a group called Vertigo.
Right.
And because We Light My Fire was our favorite song.
Right.
So we started, it was Eric Bradshaw, myself, and a gentleman named Steve Moore.
Okay.
That was the first three people in Vertigo.
Right.
And we started doing parties right when the scene was happening, in its beginning.
Okay.
When we were not considered house, but we were considered punk.
Right.
You know,
because house wasn't even made up.
No,
at that
it wasn't
time,
even in existence.
Right.
You know, it was the punk out.
Okay.
You know,
we
even had our own dance. You know, and as that.
And what year was that, Craig?
Oh my gosh, that had to be 78, 79.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't quote me.
Right.
Media. I'm getting old, but around 78, 79.
Right.
Because I was in high school, I graduated in 81.
Okay.
Yeah, 79, 80, 81. And then by being involved with the teen scene and learning the ins and outs of promotion, one of my friends was going to this club every week called The Warehouse.
Right.
And he would come back with all these fabulous stories about the music and everything like that.
Wow.
So one night I snuck out with him because we were all of, 16?
Oh, wow.
15, 16?
Okay.
Yeah. And he told his mother that he was spending the night in my house. I told my mom I was spending the night at his house.
Right.
And we ended up going down to 206 South Jefferson.
Wow.
I was a nervous wreck going in the door.
Oh, my goodness.
It was just unreal. But when I got there, it was amazing. It was remarkable.
So can you give me some music and fashion reference at that time?
When we got to the Warehouse, that was around the time when all of the so-called what we would consider classic house was new.
Right.
I remember when Frankie first got Let's Go Dancing.
Oh, wow.
He played it about 6 to 7 times that night. He just kept flipping it over and playing. Actually, at one point, I got tired of hearing it, but he made it happen. And, you know, story that I said I wasn't going to tell because I'm putting it in my little book that I'm putting together.
Okay.
I was there the night Martin Circus was played in Chicago.
Oh, my goodness, the first time.
It was unreal.
Really?
It was unreal.
Now, did he play the whole record at that night?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He did. It was amazing because at that time, no one had really heard anything like that.
Right.
And when Frankie dropped it, you know, one of the reasons, too, we were all fucked up.
Right.
Keep it real.
Right.
You know, but he dropped Martin Circus, and I remember everybody like got caught up in a hypnotic trance.
Right.
And I looked around, and even at 206, there was this long staircase that when you came into the door, you would walk through this hallway, and then you would go down the stairs, and that was the dance floor.
Yeah.
Even the people that were on the stairs, everybody had literally stopped in their place and was dancing wherever they were. It was amazing.
And the fashion at that time was what?
Fashion was, you had a lot of designers.
Okay.
Tons of it.
Okay.
But to to tie that into the club, that's interesting that you said that, because at 206 at the warehouse, the only thing that you were concerned about when you left there was what you were going to wear the next day.
Wow.
The next time it was open.
So it's like a wardrobe change.
It was. We actually, if you became a regular, you would bring an outfit change.
Wow.
So if you saw somebody, like say if you were a good friend and you were there, I would see you at midnight or at 1 o'clock, because usually we didn't get there till 1 or 2 in the morning. If I saw you at 2 o'clock, by 6 you would have something else on.
Wow.
And that's why I was always a line at the bathroom.
Right.
Because everybody wanted to change outfits. And it's so crazy because the way 206 was made, it was like you had to walk down this runway. It was when you came up the stairs and paid your money at the door, you made a right, then you made a left down into this room. And in this room, it had booths built into the wall. And you had to go there to get downstairs.
Wow.
And that right there was the fashion show catwalk.
And that's when everybody
was looking to see what you had on.
Oh, wow. So, Craig, are you considered first generation house, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So here's the second question. Do you remember when that culture started to be referred as house in the black gay community? And how long did it cross over to the straight kids?
Well, that's where your problem starts.
Okay.
It had two different meanings, and a lot of people don't understand it. When we first started doing this, it was not considered house music. Okay. Frankie didn't play house music at the warehouse. Okay. Frankie played Euro disco, R&B, everything. He played eclectic. It was all over the place. Right. So there wasn't what, quote unquote, house music, because it wasn't even in existence then. Right. But some of the people would refer to, the regulars would refer to certain songs that they remember that Frankie played a lot as house music, because they remembered it from the warehouse. Okay. So we gonna get into this right here. Mm-hmm.
Where do you think the term house music came from? So I take you back, because a lot of people like Wayne and Kirk Townsend say, people was playing disco music in their house, and they was like, well, what's that? They playing everything in their house, and they call it house music. So do you agree with that, or do you agree with everybody saying it came from the warehouse? And they shorten it up because some of the songs they was playing, they was like, oh, that's what we hear at the warehouse, so they call it house music.
I would say it's a real sticky situation. Right. I would actually say that the word house music came from the warehouse. Okay. But I would say that the warehouse was its catalyst. Okay. Right. To the genre. Correct. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So when you talked about the Vertigo parties, can you describe what a Vertigo party was, and who were the DJs, and what records made up that sound? Well, it's interesting. Like the music that we were playing was, a lot of the classic house music, what people deem today as classic house music. Right. The teens were on it at the same time as Frankie was doing his thing. Oh, wow. See, and that's why I remember Robert Williams and I had a little debate, because he was in an interview one time and he mentioned that there was nothing going on until he got here, and I was like, no, you just didn't know what was going on the south and the west side. Right, because he wasn't from Chicago. No, he was not. Right. So he didn't know that it was already a culture being formed. Strong culture. Okay. I mean, you have to remember back then we could give events that had 10,000 kids in, Navy Pier, things like that. Right. I mean, it was big, it was huge, and it was all. Also, that's why I credit Kirk Townsend for having a lot to do with it as well. Yeah. Because it was derivative from on the south side from Mendel. Right. And yeah. So let's see where we are. So when you met Frankie, how did that relationship develop, like when you first met him? And were you just friends, or were there more to that? Well, Frank... Okay. All right, yeah. It's time for the tea. Yeah, no, Frankie and I were very close friends. That was it. Okay. A lot of people thought it was more than that, but no, we were just very close. We clicked. Right. I met Frankie, I remember very clearly. Now, if anything, I do remember that. In 206, there was a big window. It was like an opening where at the very end of the club was where the DJ booth was.
Right.
And I used to come and stand there. I would stand by that window every time I was in there because I'd be with my friends and they would want to dance and party and all that.
Right.
But I kept gravitating back towards that window.
Okay.
When I got to that window, I would just stand there and I'd look and I'd just watch him all night long.
Right.
I'd just watch him. And I remember clearly one day I asked him, would he teach me how to DJ?
Oh, wow.
And he told me no.
Okay.
And I consider that the catalyst and the energy that made me become the DJ that I am today.
Wow.
Because I said, okay, you told me no, so I'm going to teach myself.
And what year was that?
Oh, my God. That had to be 79.
Okay.
Yeah, 1979.
Wow.
And eventually, Frankie because only the elite people were in the DJ booth. He had a staircase in there, and people would sit on the staircase behind him while he was DJing.
Right.
And he just motioned for me to come in.
Okay.
And I came in, and he introduced, and I introduced myself. And every week from then, I would come back, and I'd sit there, and then we became really, really good friends.
Now, did you have a role at the warehouse?
At the warehouse, I did not have a role.
Okay. But how about the power plant?
Well, the power plant, when Frankie, us being close as we were, he knew that my interest at that time was in sound engineering. I was going to Columbia for sound engineering and art and entertainment management.
Right.
He was one of the reasons that I did that because he wanted me, he always said, I want you to go get papers behind you. I want you to have papers behind you because he knew how interested I was in that.
Right.
So I believe it was 81, 82, 83, around that time.
Right.
Frankie called Robert and he said he wanted us to meet him somewhere.
Right.
And it was a club called Riverside.
Okay.
It was 1015 North Halsted.
Right.
So Robert and I came down, and Frankie was saying, what do y'all think?
Okay.
It was actually, Frankie was the resident DJ of this bar.
Already?
And it was already, he was already the resident DJ.
Okay.
It was actually a white leather bar.
Oh, wow.
Right around the corner from Cabrini Green.
Okay.
And because of that, they were having some issues with the boys in the neighborhood breaking into their cars and jumping on the guys that were going. So the guys who initially opened it wanted to sell the club. So Frankie I said, what do you guys think? And we said, it's nice. He said, well, I like that. I want to buy it.
Right.
What do you think? He said, well, yeah, it could work. And then that's when the wheels start going into motion.
Okay. That's when Celeste was a partner too at that time?
Now, I remember Celeste coming in, but we were already open.
Okay.
That I remember. I could be wrong.
Right.
But I do remember there was a business deal that Celeste and Frankie did, but at that particular time, the club was already up and running.
Right.
I think we just needed some additional stuff that he wanted, and I remember she came into a lot of money at one point.
So were you spinning at the power plant with Frankie?
Yeah, I used to open up.
Oh, okay.
It was Michael Winston and I used to switch off back and forth. My job initially my job was the sound engineer.
Okay.
And it's a crazy story. There was a guy named Nick who was the head engineer, very talented young man.
Right.
He also studied Richard Long. I studied Richard Long.
Nice.
Richard Long is one of the premier sound designers.
System, yeah.
That was my mentor. I was just like anything Richard did, I was into. And so was Nick. So every time I would see Nick, we started talking about engineering and all this. And he actually had the original schematics for Richard's tweeter array.
Oh, wow.
Which is one of the most popular things out. And just the other day, believe it or not, a friend of mine found the original tweeter arrays from Paradise Garage and sent me the picture of it. Yeah.
Nice.
So with that being said, I was more in like I say, my initial job was sound engineer. Frankie hired me. But the way the story went, I was in school at that time in Columbia, and I would come down to the power plant on Fridays to let Frankie hear remixes and edits and stuff that I did. And, we would go back and forth with that kind of stuff.
Right.
And one night I came down, and his sound system did not work. Him and Nick had an issue, and they fell out. And Nick kind of sabotaged a few things, but he didn't tear it up.
Right.
He just rewired
it so nobody knew
I remember I had an event at Columbia, and I had on a suit and tie and all of that.
Right.
And Frankie said, "Can you help me?"
Right.
And I was like, well, I got up and I said, "I'll do what I can." I got in there, started tearing stuff apart, got it together. And at 12:01, we put the needle on the record, the turntable. I remember the song was "Stop" by Jean.
Oh, wow.
And the room sang.
Right.
And I was just joking, and I turned to him and I said, "Do I get the job?" And he said, "You got it."
Wow.
And that's how I became the engineer.
So when you were spinning there, do you remember what were your first records? Or even your first records that you brought when you was starting to DJ?
When I started DJing, I remember going back and forth to imports, et cetera.
Right.
And I used to also work at, was it JR's? I used to work at JR's in Evergreen.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah. I remember this one guy, it was so funny. Benji used to tell this story all the time.
Benji Espinoza.
Yes, Benji Espinoza.
Rest in peace.
There was this Jerry McAllister record that came out that I thought that was really, really hot.
Right.
And I kept pushing it. And if you remember in JR's, there was this guy that was, I think his name was Stacy.
Okay.
That was like been there forever and everybody knew him, but he had a real funky attitude.
Right.
And he told me if I played that record one more time, he was going to toss it across the store. And he said, I told him, if you tossed my record across the store, I'm going to toss you over the counter.
Oh, wow.
And lo and behold, everything came to fruition.
Right.
And Benji used to tell this story all the time to people about don't make Craig Loftis mad because he'll toss you over the counter. But it was just
wow.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy.
I can imagine that, Craig. Come on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and you wouldn't. I mean, I do have pushing points when know there's a breaking point every now and then. But back to I remember I was the first person that bought Nancy Martin "Can't Believe" from imports. Right. I was the first person to buy Soul Sonic Force. Oh wow. The minute they came in, I was right there.
And that was one of the records you played at the Power Plant too. Mm-hmm. Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you witnessed the development of Jamie Prince with "Your Love," which E Smooth credits as the first house song and artist. Tell the Jamie story from your perspective as a DJ and engineer.
Well, Jamie, it's so funny you said that. Just the other day, Eric and I, E Smooth and I saw a post on this website or whatever, and the guy was trying to explain "Your Love," and he had it all wrong. Right. The whole story behind it. But the original mix of "Your Love" was very musical. Right. It was not, the guy made it seem like it was just a drum track with a few things. It was extremely musical because Jamie is a very proficient keyboard player. He brought it, the mix was done by Louis Gomez, which a lot of people don't know. Jose Gomez, which is one of my good friends as well, that we go party. We party back at the warehouse and tell you stories about that. Jose, I call him Jose. His name is Louis Gomez. Jose brought Jamie down to meet us at the power plant. Right. Jamie was not a patron of the power plant. He didn't go out. Jamie was a very shy and timid young man. Right. So when Frankie heard "Your Love," it was amazing. One of the things that people have to remember too, the way it worked at the power plant, and this is why Chip E, everybody else, JM Silk, would bring us stuff. Right. We literally would listen to it right then and there at the party. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And always. And if we thought that this was going to rock the party, I'd never forget, Frankie would put it on the reel. Right. He'd listen. And then he turned to the person and give him that look. I already knew he finna play it. Right. He finna play it. So he would set it up and build it, and we would play it. Right. So, I mean, we were right on the cusp of new music, new creations, and everything, right when this whole house thing was beginning to evolve. Right. Chip would bring down stuff. Steve Hurley would bring down stuff. Right. Jamie would bring down stuff. So you engineered some of Jamie records? Oh, yeah, definitely. What Jamie would do is he would do, like, prototypes, bring them down, and then we would decide if we're going to really work on them, how we're going to go with it. I engineered Bad Boys. People always wonder, the biggest thing with all Chicago DJs is trying to find a clean copy of Bad Boys. Guess what? You won't.
Wow.
It was actually recorded in the DJ booth.
At the power plant?
Yes.
Get out of here.
We recorded Bad Boys in the DJ booth. We recorded Make You Scream in Jamie's bedroom.
Okay.
And also Your Love we didn't. Let's see, Make You Scream, Bad Boys, and I'm missing one.
How about Baby Wants to Ride?
Baby Wants to Ride.
Right.
Yeah, we did both of those in Jamie's bedroom and Bad Boys in the power plant.
Wow.
Then eventually what happened was Waiting on My Angel, which Jamie did without me, went real big in the club. People were really digging on it.
Right.
So Persona, a record label called Persona, wanted to pick it up.
Right.
So we went into the studio. Remember when Universal was on Rush Street?
Yep, sure do.
That's right. It was actually the day after the party that I gave at Mendel with Frankie and Jamie performing.
And you engineered Waiting on My Angel?
Yes, I engineered I engineered the song. And actually, it's so funny, I always tease Jamie about this. I paid for the end of the session because we ran out of money.
Wow.
But I had money because I had just given the biggest party Mendel, one of the biggest parties Mendel had ever had. That was one of my parties.
Get out of here.
Who
was the DJs at Mendel then?
Actually, that night was Frankie.
Okay.
That was Frankie. It was Frankie and Jamie performed that night.
I remember that because it was the green flyer. And I remember that.
And you know, a lot of people don't know, we went to, that party was, we went the week before and bought, Jamie was standing on that stage in a $3,000 suit.
Wow.
From a place called Intrinsic, where we would do all our shopping at.
Right.
But yeah, it was amazing. So when the record, after going back to the record, when they did the release, I mean, I did the mix and everything, engineered and all of that. Granted, Frankie sent in the credits so that I would get co-credit as mixing and engineering. But when the record came out, my name was nowhere on it.
Absolutely. They do that.
Yeah, it was political.
Yeah.
But Frankie got so upset with them that they did put they printed out a sheet that had the corrected stuff that was supposed to be on it with my name on it. And then my name came on the record in the second pressing.
Okay.
But I mean, the first grand pressing, you want to be a part of that, you know, but
well,
my
that's
name,
why you're telling this story. See,
yeah,
you know
my name didn't come on. And unfortunately, which is really crazy, the only person that I know who has that insert was Benji Espinoza.
Wow.
He actually called me and said, Craig, you know, I found the insert for Waiting on My Angel from Persona.
Oh, rest in peace, Ben. That would have been nice if you had a picture.
Yeah, it really, really would if we had the picture of that.
So after those initial records, Jamie and Frankie fell out. From your perspective, how did it happen and what do you think influenced it?
Well, this is when the time after the power plant had closed.
Okay.
And Frankie was trying to decide. Actually, Frankie was living with me at that time.
Oh, wow.
And he was trying to decide what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go. And he decided he was going to go to London. He went to London before he went to New York. Everybody thought he went to New York first.
Okay.
He went to London first, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. He, because when he left us, he went to London. But before that, he was doing a deal with Trax Records.
Okay. And
he released the stuff on Trax. And it got kind of crazy because when it came out, because it was Frankie Knuckles, they were pushing it more as Frankie Knuckles instead of Jamie Principle.
Right.
So in Jamie's eyes and the rest of the world, it looked as if Frankie was stealing Jamie's music.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. That was a problem, like you already saw with Persona.
Yeah.
Most labels would try to go with the name that they knew.
Bigger name, yeah. To use
the bigger
push
name.
Right.
You know, and it's so crazy. Even Frankie, to go off subject for a minute, even Frankie experienced that.
Wow.
When he was with, when they did Let No Man Put Us Under.
Correct.
Everybody was harping over Frankie's mix, but the label didn't feel that Frankie's name was big enough, so they hired Shep to do the mix, and Frankie's mix still overshadowed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know. But back to the story. Jamie had fell out.
Okay.
Jamie was working with Steve and the guys at ID.
Yeah, Steve Still Curly.
Yeah, and Steve Still Curly.
Right.
And it kind of like got, it was a whole thing. Jamie was mad at him. Steve was mad at him and all of that.
Right.
But what they did not know was that Frankie did not steal it, and every penny of the money that was made, even the publishing, was still in Jamie's name.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then until that happened and Jamie saw that,
right,
then it was a big change.
Okay.
Because we were at Imports, etc.
Right.
when Jamie came up to Frankie to apologize for.
So I'm interject right here. So it was known that, I don't know if it's known, but it's allegedly that Frankie was broke when he decided to move back to New York to join Def Mix. And then that's when he sold the songs of both Tracks and DJ International.
He sold those before he left.
Oh, he sold that before he left.
Yeah, he sold those before he left.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That was the money. Yeah, he sold those before he left. That wasn't. Yeah.
So let me ask you too. Why didn't you move to New York with Frankie? Was it an option at the time?
Actually, I moved to California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was so funny. Let me tell you a little story about that.
Okay.
Frankie wrote, and I still have that. Frankie wrote me a letter of introduction to a friend of his, Guy Manganello, at Chrysalis Records for a job. And he wrote a letter of introduction, and I still have that letter to this day.
Wow.
And it was so funny. Frankie went to London. I went to California, and I never forget it. I was in the office interviewing with Guy Manganello, and this little guy came in and handed him a cassette said, "This is my new album that I want to work on in Chrysalis," and he took it. And then I was just joking with Guy about him and who it was. And it was Eazy-E.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went from one genre to
another?
Yeah.
But I didn't have nothing to do. So it was like, I would just never forget that. I'd never forget that when I was interviewing, that this guy actually brought his tape in to let Guy handle it, because he was the head of A&R for Chrysalis Records.
Wow. So you said earlier that a lot of people came down to see Frankie play their music, when it was just raw and into production. So, I mean, and you say he was on there immediately, right? If you liked it or not. Okay. So, and did it take any records to grow on him before he played it that night? Like, did he say to anybody like?
I mean, no, actually, no. It never. It was always. That's why I was always telling people, the power plant was way before its time. Yeah. As far as, I mean, when I say new music, we had new music before you even knew it existed.
Wow.
And that's what made it so hot. I mean, literally, if you were working, if the sound quality was good enough to come, because you could tell in the headphones, if it was good enough to play out, then we would play it out if it was hot. We tell them the first 3 bars. Right. You know what I'm saying? No, that's true. If it's funky. And then, and Frankie would play it. Or I would play it.
We miss those type of days right now.
Yeah.
Because everybody
one of the things is, give me your demo, I'll listen to it later and all that. Right. But it didn't work like that for us. We would literally
wish we could
play
have that back again like that, man.
Yeah, we would literally play it right then and there. Right.
So name the first 3 house music records that established the genre, in your opinion.
First 3 house records.
Yes.
It's house.
Okay, that's Chippy.
Yeah.
Right.
A lot of it was Chippy to me. It's house, Godfather of house. Okay. That established the genre. I Can't Turn Around. Okay. Steve Hurley and Farley's. Right.
Would you put Move Your Body in there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. But you know what? I wouldn't say that it would. Yeah, Move Your Body. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, Move Your Body. Move Your Body kind of took it global. Right. I would say it too.
Oh, absolutely. I think so too. Okay. So what were some of your first engineer or production records at DJ International?
Ooh. Wow.
Because a lot of people don't know you had your stake in
right after I got out of school for engineering, I got hired by DJ International, and I was chief engineer for DJ International for 10 years. Wow. And I engineered some of everybody.
Yeah, you did, because Sundance said you did Get On Up with
her.
Yeah,
I did Get On. Yeah. Let me tell you would not believe, I'm not going to tell your secret, Sundance, but we had fun with that. Right. I'm going to leave it at that. Okay. We had fun with that.
All right. So hindsight is 20/20 vision, right? Mm-hmm. You saw DJ International from the inside. If you was Rocky Jones, what would you have done differently?
Made sure that everybody got paid the right way. Right. and cultivated everybody, because believe it or not, at one particular point, everybody and anybody in the city of Chicago that was doing something in house music was signed to DJ International.
That is true.
And if you, I mean, it was already, DJ International became a global phenomenon, but where it would have been now if everybody felt that they were cool and they were getting their just dues.
Right.
It was literally, I mean, you had Frankie. Yeah. Frankie was signed there. Yeah. Steve, Farley, everybody was signed to DJ International. Joe Smooth, everybody, literally. And actually, the only reason I got signed, I was the engineer at that time. And what would happen is, during my downtime, I would go in Studio B downstairs, and I'd start writing stuff. And one day, Rocky came up downstairs and said, "Whose stuff is this? Why don't we have this out? Why is it?" And I was like, "It's mine." I was just playing around. He was like, "Put this out. We need to put this out." But then also, he didn't have me sign a non-disclosure agreement. So what he made me do was, if I wanted to keep my job as an engineer, I had to sign a record deal with him. So that was like the non-disclosures, because he had no control. I could have took it and went anywhere. So since I was sitting on a record deal, I started putting records out under Loftus. Loftus 1, Loftus 2. And then another group was L Factor, another group of mine, and
Wow. So you are more linked with Frankie Knuckles, but did you have a relationship with Ron Hardy at the Music Box?
Oh yeah. Okay. Ron and I were cool.
Speak about that for a little bit.
Well, Ron and I would go down and hang out with Ron. I really think that Ron Hardy was an amazing DJ. Okay. He was amazing, literally. It's interesting, as a DJ, we always are concerned about tempo. Yeah. It didn't work with Ron Hardy. Yeah. It did not work with Ron Hardy. Yeah. Ron Hardy played what he wanted, when he wanted to hear
it. And how fast he wanted.
And how it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Records that to this day we couldn't figure out how to put the two together, Ron could make it happen. Yeah. The only other DJ to me that is as phenomenal as a mixer is Andre Hatchett. Yeah.
People forget about Andre.
Yeah, Andre's ear, no one in this city has come anywhere near the way Andre hears mixes in his head. Yeah. Now, I sometimes when I sit back, I remember listening to Andre and just watching him, and the way he would have probably made a great musician if he went into it, but he would turn his records into music. Wow. Andre would do blends that were unreal. But Ron was cool. I remember Ron and I used to hang out. I had one crazy story that happened with Ron. It was the only time that I've ever played at the Music Box. Yeah. I went down to go see Ron. And it's so funny. It's a life story of mine, but I've had a few people come tell me my own story, which is interesting. But I was there with Robert and Ron. We were in the DJ booth. It was a Tuesday night. Okay. And I would come down and hang out with Ron in the booth. I even got a picture of that night. Okay. And Ron and Robert went downstairs in the office. And I was sitting there. The room was packed. The record was about to go off. Right. And I'm sitting up here in my mind trying to figure out, what do I do? Right. Because I went to the door and I called, Ryan. He ain't come back upstairs. So I'm trying to figure out, what do I do? Right. I work for the power plant. Right. I don't work for the Music Box. Right. So just out of GP, I just grabbed a record and I mixed, and crowd loved it, whatever. At that particular time, Ronnie came upstairs, saw me mix, and said, "Oh, okay," and went back downstairs, and I didn't see Ron until like 3 or 4 that morning. I ended up playing the whole party, but it was fun. And that was the only time I've ever played at the Music Box.
And what year was that?
Oh my God, Maurice! Don't ask me. Okay. That was just
All right.
Because that place. This was at the Underground, right? So it had to be after 16th, right? So that had to be 80, somewhere in the 80s. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. Okay.
So you were around for almost the beginning. Mm-hmm. Do you remember how Farley Keith came on the scene and became popular?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it was the Playground. Actuality, this is funny. I should tell Farley this story all the time. Frankie and I, actually, he sent me in as a spy.
Oh, wow. Get out of here.
Yeah, it was funny. It was really funny because we were having this conversation. He didn't really send me in as a spy. I just had to prove a point.
Yeah.
Word had got back to us that there was this guy that was DJing at the playground that could do our edits. Frankie and I were real big on edits.
Right.
That's one of the things we would do a lot is get together, cut tape up, and all that.
Right.
So we were really big on that. And word got back to us that there was a guy that was a DJ at the playground that could do our edits live on turntable.
Right.
And I thought that was like, ain't no way.
Ain't unheard of.
Ain't no way on this planet somebody could do that. So I actually went down to the power plant.
Okay.
I mean, to the playground. And watched him.
Uh-huh.
And he did.
Wow.
And I went back and told Frankie, I said, yeah, he can.
Okay.
He can.
So Frankie was aware of Farley and his impact then?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, you have to remember, Farley was huge because back then, like I was telling you, at the same time as we were having the underground of the 206, the warehouse, 206, the power plant, and all of those.
Right.
That, from 206 to the power plant, the music box time, you also had a development of the teen scene.
Correct.
In Chicago.
Right.
They didn't know about each other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was only a few of us that trickled over.
Right.
To the warehouse and stuff like that. I think I saw Jesse in there one time.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Andre's been in there. Celeste, there's only a few of us.
Have you seen Wayne Williams in there?
Wayne was in there one time. I remember Wayne in there one time. But yeah, there's only a few of us that would trickle over.
Right.
But it was all going on at the same time.
Because you had the gay kids and then the straight kids doing their own thing too.
Exactly.
But everybody partied together too at the same time.
Yeah, everybody partied together at the same time. It was so funny too. It's like the straight kids had their dance and the gay kids had their dance.
Right.
Because it was really funny. I mean, tell you.
Yeah.
There was a dance that was done at 206. It's almost like the punk out.
Okay.
But it was different.
Right.
And if you saw somebody do that dance at a party, you knew they went to the warehouse.
They went to the house, yeah.
So you would look at them,
Absolutely.
they'd look at you,
too.
and then there'll be this little nod, like, yeah, what's up? You know what I'm saying?
So, Greg, tell us about your most impactful production.
My most impactful production?
Yes.
My most impactful production would be my song "Mary Mary."
Yes.
Which actually was a hit for 7 years in the gay community before the straight kids even found out about it. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it had been.
And there was a lot of people bootleg or they put their name on it. Yeah. So we didn't really know who did it.
Yeah. What happened was, it's so interesting that now that's a whole nother story.
Okay.
Let me tell you how Mary Mary came to fruition.
Right.
At that time, I was the resident DJ of the Prop House on Friday nights, which was their gay night. Yeah. And this is when we were going through the struggle, which a lot of people still don't know. Gay kids don't listen to house music anymore. Right. Okay, y'all hear that? Gay kids don't listen to house music anymore. If you go into a gay club, they're playing hip hop.
That's crazy.
Which is crazy. Right. Which is crazy when a lot of us are the ones that created it and started it, you know, or actually helped it move along to where it is now. So one of the problems that I had on my dance floor was it was separated. I had the older heads who liked nothing but vocals and soulful stuff. Right. Then I had the younger kids who only like up-tempo stuff, funky rhythms and everything. And then I had the bald kids who only loved that crash. You could put that crash on any song and they would lose their mind. It could be a hip-hop song. If they hear that crash, they're going to lose it. Wow. And so as I would DJ throughout the night, I kept noticing the floor would change. They wouldn't leave the room. The floor kept changing. Right. Every time they heard what they wanted to hear. So I went home, and it was so funny. I was in my studio. It was Roy Bryant, Andre Hatchett, and Gus Taylor. Okay. We were all in there getting drunk. Right. And I was working on this track all night long, and it was Mary Mary. Okay. When I got the instrumentation correct, and what it was I pulled the element of everything that I knew that separated my dance floor and put it all in one. Yes. That next day, this was a Saturday. That Sunday, I got in the car, I was going to the store, and Oh Mary, Don't You Weep came on the radio. And from me listening to this track all night long, I kept putting the two together. I couldn't wait to get back in the house.
Right.
I ran in the house, grabbed "Oh Mary, Don't You Weep," and I cut it up and I placed it strategically in the track itself. It worked. When I played it, they lost it. They lost it, and it was actually a DJ toy.
Right.
It was just a DJ tool.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people don't know.
Okay.
The record came out initially on Wheezy Records.
Wheezy Records, right?
Okay. Y'all ready for this?
Yep.
Wheezy is Wayne Williams' mother.
What?
Dun, 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 dun.
Wow.
Wayne Williams actually was the producer to help me get Mary Mary out.
Nice.
Yeah. So we did a joint venture to put Mary Mary out.
That was a great record, man. Like I said, everybody loved that record, man. So describe your own DJ style and philosophy, Craig.
My DJ style is, I was born from I won't say the classics, because when I started, they weren't classics.
Right. They were just new records.
They were just new records. Yeah. And what I find being a producer myself, and in this era, history always repeats itself.
Right.
So, when I write a song, or, when I'm working on a track and I'm working on the hi-hats and things like that, I always used to ask myself, what would Frankie do right here?
Yeah.
What would Frankie do right here? And then I would also reminisce from the days of the power plant and the music box and remember what rocked the room at that time. Yeah. And I view that philosophy on everything.
Yeah, because I can tell your production is clean and is different from anybody else's. And it remind me of how's that the signature sound, like Frankie and Eric couple. Yeah. It's sort of like that.
And with a little bit more energy.
Yes.
That was one of the reasons, too. Another reason why I created Mary Mary was because of the fact that I told Frankie I was tired of all house music went through this pretty music era. Yeah. That everything was pretty. Right. And I told him, I said, nobody's putting out like gutsy, raw tracks like we did back in the day, the stuff that rocked the 90s, dance floor. And so that's one of the other reasons why I created Mary Mary. So
you're now a club owner. Describe how you approach running and programming a club, and what do you take from all your experiences in creating the vibe for the lodge?
The main experience is creating a good event. As everyone knows, I'm really, really big on decorating. It's all about the ambiance, right? And the atmosphere. Yes. One of the main key components in a successful nightclub in Chicago is the sound system. Yeah. You can literally have a hole in the wall, and if you got a great sound system, you got to start.
That is true.
But I like to add that other aspect on it because, being with Frankie and being in this industry so long, I've literally had the pleasure of traveling the world. And I've seen what other clubs, like give you an example, in the lodge, no one really pays attention to it, but my chandeliers in the lodge actually have strobe lights inside of them. Oh, wow. And that idea I got from a club in Dubai. Right. The last place me and Frankie was at, it was a club in Dubai. Yeah. And it was a beautiful club. And I kept asking Frankie, well, where's the light system at? We couldn't see it. And we were wondering what it was. And then when the party started, come to find out, theirs was major. Yeah. I just put strobe lights in mine, but their chandeliers were actually the light system. Wow. They had all kind of stuff coming out of the chandeliers and everything. So it's about creating an atmosphere where people can remember. But it comes from, again, like you say, the history. Yeah. Even when we were with Vertigo, Vertigo never gave just a party. Yeah. Every party that Vertigo gave when we were kids was strategic. Right. It was either the battle of the DJs or it was, I'll tell you one, and this will tell people's age. Right. If you remember a long time ago, Jules had a section called Generic. It was everything you wanted that they sold regular, but it was all generic, and it had a white label with green stripes, green and black stripes. Right. So it was generic pop, generic cereal, everything. We gave a generic punk party. So the flyer looked just like Jules' generic thing, but it said generic punk, and we sold generic pop. I mean, everything, it was a theme. Yeah. I remember one of our parties down the street here at it was the Loft, right down the street here on Michigan. it was our Halloween party.
Right.
And the chosen few were the DJs. And Alan, it was so funny. Alan remembered this and mentioned it on Facebook the other day.
Yeah.
But he didn't remember whose party it was. It was our party. Okay. It was Vertigo. We had got to capacity and we had to close the doors.
Okay.
And from somewhere, we don't know where, people got ladders. And if they remember the loft had big giant windows that you turn like this to open to get area, but people could easily fit in. And they'd actually climb the building.
Kurt was saying something like that too.
Yeah, they climbed the building. That was our party. That was Vertigo.
Okay.
Yeah, that was Vertigo.
So Craig, as house music has expanded globally, some portions have become more commercial and mainstream. Do you think house music need to be underground again?
I would say it could have two sides.
Okay.
One of the things is I appreciate it going commercial because it broadens the audience.
Yeah.
And then also on that level, by broadening the audience, you can, as a producer and writer, you have the opportunity to be on the level with artists that have been out here for a while, getting Grammys and being nominated for a particular genre of music. Congratulations to you and, Frankie, Terry for being nominated for a Grammy. These are things that we inspire for, but it only happens when house music becomes global.
Correct. And everybody stick together.
Exactly.
Too. Yeah.
And then everybody can make more money.
Right.
Then at the same time, if you could take that and do another mix for the underground, for the club.
That's how we used to do it back in the day.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you do this really cool poppy mainstream mix,
right.
And then and what was interesting, I used to work for Vince Lawrence on Slang.
Okay.
And what I used to always do with my mixes, I remember in Kelly Price, when I did Kelly Price's album, and then all the other NSYNC, the other people that I've done mixes on, I would always start off with the body, with the commercial part and everything. Yep. But then it would make a dramatic change in the end and just get funky.
Right.
So everybody else could get a piece.
Absolutely. So, that's what happened before you. Exactly. Yeah. So there are many versions of house music story as it develops from influences to its own culture to a full-fledged genre. Can you clear up anything in the story that you feel is consistently misrepresented?
That one of the things is that Frankie played house music.
Okay.
At the warehouse.
Right.
That's not true.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But see, again, what happens is when we twist the culture and the genre.
Yes.
The culture was around for a long time.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? It was developed. It started when, like I say, back when we were punk.
Yeah.
But what it is that you have a whole lot of people in Chicago that don't know anything about that, weren't there, and they were born into house.
Correct. Yeah.
So it's real hard for them to understand that there's a difference. And that's why we have all this bickering going on. Yeah. You have the culture that is house. Whereas that, give you an example, it would be, if something was hot, it's like if you called it house, it was a term of endearment.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying? It wasn't just saying, oh, that's house music.
Exactly, yeah.
It was a term of endearment.
Right, because you had a lot of pop artists doing it with the 4/4. You like, they went house on it.
Exactly. That's like trying to have a battle, an argument with somebody saying Teddy Pendergrass' Bad Luck was house music.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But tell a classic house head that, you get shot.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So what is your Mount Rushmore of house culture and then house the genre?
House the culture. Oh, right. That's interesting. You split it up.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. House the genre. Mount Rushmore.
Yeah. You can make it 3 or 5. Either
3
way.
or 5? Yeah. Okay. Woo. That's a good one. Yeah. See. The genre would be Frankie.
Yes.
Yeah, Frankie, Ronnie. I like when she said Little Lewis. Little Lewis is true. Frankie, Ronnie, Little Lewis. one of the main ones that a lot of people don't know about, Craig Cannon.
Craig Cannon.
Yeah. Do you know Craig Cannon?
Yeah.
Okay. Craig Cannon actually was one of the most unsung heroes in all of this.
Wow.
Because, see, Craig Cannon gave me my first start.
Right.
Everybody thought Frankie did, but it wasn't. Craig Cannon gave me my first start.
Yeah.
He gave Lori Branch her first start.
Nice.
He gave Wayne Williams his first start.
That's part of history right there.
And get ready for this. He gave Ron Hardy his start.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people. When Ron got back here to Chicago, he was doing the Den. He played the Den One in California.
Okay.
Left the Den One and was playing at this little bar. I forgot the name of this bar. Oh my God! But when he left that, this was before Robert. He went to the Ritz.
Okay.
Craig hired him to play at the Ritz.
Oh wow.
So Ron Hardy was playing at the Ritz on Wednesday nights.
Right.
Me and Frankie used to go down to hear Ron at the Ritz on Wednesday.
Yeah.
The owner of the Ritz was this white guy named Fred, who got a wind of all of the underground things that was going on.
Right.
So he wanted to jump in the business.
Oh wow.
So he went and got a building to open up his new club, which was called R2 Underground.
Oh, wow.
Which was 326 Lower Wacker.
Oh, get out of here.
That was Fred's club.
Right.
It was R2 Underground, which was initially started by Craig Cannon.
Oh.
Your initial DJs on there, believe it or not, the residents was Andre Hatchett and Lori Branch.
Oh, wow. Okay.
This is before it became the Music Box.
Ah. Look at that history right there, y'all. Y'all getting history right there. Okay. So name your top 3 Chicago house records besides your own.
Top 3 Chicago. Wonderful. I love Wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, Terry Hunter's
Terry Hunter,
Wonderful.
Teresa Griffin.
Ron Carroll.
Peaches.
Yeah. You say Peaches.
Yeah. AKA Peaches.
Carol Ann.
Yeah. Carol Ann. Right. You got one more.
Move Your Body.
And Move Your Body.
Mm-hmm.
Marshall Jeff and Curtis McLean.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
but I love Robert Owens too, so don't get me wrong.
Well, you can have 5 if you want to.
But they make it 6 because I love everything that Jamie did.
Okay.
You know, it took me years. I'm telling you, as a producer and artist, I've tried for years to imitate that mystique and underground sound that Jamie Principle had. Nobody matched that.
No.
Nobody can't come nowhere near it.
Like
exactly.
Prince.
Well, that was 2 of his favorite idols was Prince and David Bowie.
Exactly.
And if you ever listen to his stuff, he sounds like Prince and David Bowie.
Absolutely.
You know
That's why nobody can replicate it, you know?
Yeah.
So, Craig, are you part of the Frankie Knuckles Foundation?
Unfortunately, no, I am not part of the Frankie Knuckles Foundation.
Okay. Is there a reason why? Because you're so close to Frankie too. So why wouldn't you be a part of that?
Well, the people that are in charge of the foundation, we are on different levels. Of concepts and ideas.
Right.
I wasn't asked to be a part of that.
Okay.
You know.
All right.
Yeah. So I would leave it.
I would leave it like that. All right. Well, once again, Craig, thank you so much, man. I love you for doing this, man. Thank you for tuning in for everything house music and more. Remember to click the button, subscribe, hit the notification. And Craig, before we leave out of here, is there anything else you want to let the people know?
Support.
Okay.
Support your house people. Support your parties, and bring a young person to a party.
There you go.
That's what we need. We need growth.
That's right.
You know, all of us are getting much, much older.
Correct.
And for this to continue, we need to get younger people involved.
Absolutely.
So let's try to get those young folks involved, because I truly believe if they got a chance to see and experience how we really party, they would fall just like we did.
Absolutely.
Because that's what happened. You had never been to a house music party before in your life, and you walked into the room and said, this is it.
That's it.
I'm in heaven.
Yes, sir.
So do the same thing. Find a young person that you think would fit into our genre.
That's right.
Bring them on down.
Absolutely.
Right?
And remember to follow Craig and watch out for his book, and stay tuned for that. And he got a lot more coming up. Once again, Craig, I love you, man. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
Peace.